Hello, friends, and welcome to Binge Clock, the podcast where we watch something and then we talk about it. I'm Joy Selden, and I've seen almost everything.
I'm Danielle and I've seen almost nothing.
Today, we are here to talk about Kipo Season 1, Episodes 5 through 7. And wow, did a lot happen. So I think after our pilot episode, as those who listen to the show will understand, every pilot episode has pilot shine. I think what we've decided to do is do an actual summary of these episodes and then maybe talk a little bit about different, aspects and things like that of what we liked. Because so much happens in the show, and it really is the plot. The show is the plot. Like, there's no other way to talk about it.
No, you're absolutely right. And yes, so much happens. It took me a while to watch these episodes, Joy. It took me longer than the 40-odd minutes it should have. 40? Nope, I'm bad at math. 23 or 24 times 3 is nowhere near 40. It's closer to 60.
Approximately an hour's worth of show.
But it took me an hour's worth of show. It took me maybe an hour and a half to an hour and 40 minutes to get through because I kept on having to just stare at the screen, watch 6 things happen, and then hit pause and write about them.
This might have
because I couldn't take my eyes away from the screen.
This might have been the worst possible option for you, Danielle, and I apologize because it's like I know you record all the things that happen, but really so many things happen in the show, and we're just starting it. It's just beginning. Like more and more things will continue to happen, and you got to keep track of threads. It's a lot.
It's not the worst possible option though, because it's just so gosh darn fun.
This I will agree with you on.
It's just such a fun, silly show that is continues to be light on the trauma.
Yes.
Despite some pretty tough things happening, which we'll get into, I suppose, once we talk about episodes 6 and 7. Should we talk about episode 5 first?
Yes. Let's talk.
Astronomers in turtletnecks.
Let's talk about episode 5. Our cold open is on Jamack's No Good, Very Bad Day, which
Jamack
getting kicked. Oh man, he's just having the worst. He's like got trapped by the bunny. He's getting kicked out of his clan, out of his pack.
Jamack is just the bad penny or the unlucky penny or whatever the idiom is in this show, right? The thing that keeps coming back.
Right.
I fully expected to just be done with Jamack. Like, goodbye, Mod Frogs. We did it.
Yep.
And we're not. We're not done with Jamack.
We are not done with Jamack. And this is going to be a common theme that you'll see, and that we'll talk about in these other episodes also, where the show really is about Kipo and her interactions with these mutes and these other people and how she sees them and how that changes who they are. Yeah. Which sounds weirdly ominous, but I promise it's not that bad.
I don't think that sounded ominous. I think you're exactly right. It's like Kipo's exploring the world and learning about everything around her. She's also having an influence on the world around her, and we actually get to see that because the show doesn't leave characters in the dust.
Exactly.
It's kind of fun.
Exactly.
It's fun that her actions have consequences and that we can see the world changing because she's in it.
Yes. No, that's 100% what that is. And I felt so bad for Jamack in these first, few moments, especially the I think he comes face to face with a flower and the flower morphs into Kipo's face. And it's like, oh, stop it, Burrow girl. Just leave me alone. He's just having such a bad day.
I mean, the giant pigeon poop was pretty terrible as well. However, I feel like the worst thing for Jamack was getting his tie cut. Because apparently that's what happens when you, a mod frog, are banished. There's a ritual where your tie gets cut in half.
Yes.
The horror.
Oh, it was so devastating. And the way they lit the scene and the angle and you hear the snip. And I was just like, oh, man. No.
Yeah.
But so then we get the opening sequence, and we pick up right where we left off with Benson leading the way and being like, I've got a plan. There's somewhere we need to be. And where is he leading us? His secret stash of snacks. Because he's hungry.
I was going to say, I kind of love that it's like a semblance of a plan.
Yeah.
It's a plan with a pit stop or two.
I think I know what we need. I'm going to try and do the thing we need, but I am also starving. So,
I mean, listen, priorities. You got to keep up your strength. You can't just trek through the wasteland on an empty stomach. It just doesn't feel smart.
absolutely not. Yeah, you gotta be smart about it. And of course, this brings us to like, we should really get a lay of the land, and that brings us to like a telescope. Who has a telescope? The Newton Wolves have a telescope. Who are the Newton Wolves, Danielle?
This show continuing with those brilliant, brilliant names.
I know.
The Newton Wolves, who are astronomers, the titular astronomers in turtlenecks. The main two wolves are brothers.
Yes.
I assume they're brothers. They feel a
they're
bit
brothers.
brotherly.
And
And their
have to be brothers.
names are Billions and Billions. Like they are just billions and billions because they're obsessed with the universe and the galaxy. And, you know, Benson insists that they're just science and math dweebs who are obsessed with space. And Wolf, correctly, we find out, says, hey now, just because you're obsessed with space and science doesn't mean you aren't a predator. And I like that these wolves get to be both. I like that they get to be science and math geeks who are dangerous murderers and don't have the same line that Wolf does. Like they literally eat other sentient creatures. They're not just eating spiders, you know?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, they are full on predators, red meat eaters.
Yeah.
They do not have a lot of scruples, except when it comes to science.
Yeah.
They have scruples about science, but like not about eating people.
No, not about eating sentient creatures, which, like, listen, as soon as our team found out that they are willing to eat creatures like Jamack, I was like, y'all, what if you stopped eating that steak?
Seriously.
Like, Benson just kept on munching on that filet. I was like, dude, where did that come from?
Yeah.
Are you not concerned?
Yeah.
I guess the answer is no, which maybe tells us a little bit about Benson.
Maybe it does. Maybe it does. I did like by the end of the episode, I know we're skipping ahead, that he was like, the steak is a little rare, but you know, I'll take it. And I'm like, my dude is so hungry.
So hungry. I guess, but I don't know. Joy.
That's fair. I want to say if I was like starving in the end of the world apocalypse level, would I possibly eat a sentient thing?
Like a thing that can talk.
Like a thing that can talk and like
not sentient in the sense that a cat can look in the mirror and knows that it is an individual. Like a thing that can talk.
Like a thing that can talk and form its own sentences and presumably have its own, you know, agency. No. I would ask where the steak came from. I would be like, I haven't seen a cow, so where is the steak from? Yeah,
100%. Okay, so anyway, those are the Newton Wolves.
Those are the Newton Wolves, and they are predators with a capital P. I love that Wolf is like, obviously the person who's going to know all about the wolves because, as we know, she wears this wolf pelt, and she's like, you've got to have pack tactics, you know, and she's like running them through this like training montage, which is ridiculous because absolutely none of them were ever going to do. They're all spectacularly bad at something.
Hey guys, I found a single apple. Munch.
Yes. Poor Benson.
Dude.
The entire running thread of this episode is just give Benson something to eat. Dang it.
Right?
And so
I love that that's the B plot in this episode. Benson's storyline in this episode is that Benson is hungry.
I'm starving.
And Dave,
please feed me.
Dave just takes over the plan because originally the plan was they're going to act like a pack because wolves don't attack packs, right?
Mm-hmm.
And since Kipo is the one with all the science knowledge, she can impress the wolves, so she's going to be the alpha. But of course, Dave just butts in front of her, pretends to be the alpha, then tells a series of lies that they have to stick to, one of which is that Benson is a robot. And that's why he doesn't get filet.
So rude. And then we get this beautiful hip hop style, like the freestyle styling of Billions and Billions on all the science they've learned so far. And
I love Billions and Billions.
I love
so
them
much.
too.
But yes, it was very like when we were elementary and middle school and you were learning about cells and the different parts of cells and the mitochondria. I was like, oh yeah, here we go. Science vibes.
I desperately hope that like kids saw this, learned this song. This song is available on the soundtrack, by the way. And I desperately hope they use this in their science classes and their astronomy to be those kids and like naming all the like the gas giants, super giants, all of that, and just run it down. Like use
different
this
star
tool.
types. So true.
Use this tool. But so then, originally the plan is we're going to wait until everyone falls asleep because they're going to be full of food and they're going to fall asleep. And then we'll just crawl into that telescope and we're going to check it out and then leave while they're asleep. But no, Kipo is like, I am desperate to find my father. I really need to see what this is now. And she leaves the table early, goes to the room with the telescope. And what do we have but the setup payoff of Jamack, whose no good, very bad day has led him to being tied up for these wolves. Jamack!
No good, very bad
What are you doing there? How did this happen?
He's going to be dessert. When Kipo steps into the telescope room, that's where we also figure out that the wolves are in with Scarlemagne.
Right. Yes.
Right? So again, with the a lot all at once, love Megan and the fact that no one reads her reports.
I know.
I like this moment for Kipo because I think that so far, I think that this is a really good example of how this show doesn't fall into the trap of having a perfect main character. And Kipo is so close to being a quote, perfect main character because she's like always optimistic, always friendly, always wants to talk first, like is the first to forgive, right? But here we finally get her abandoning her pack because she decides that she's going to put her interests above theirs.
Right.
Right? Because she needed to be there to show off her science knowledge. And she dipped.
Yeah. Yeah, she definitely did. As soon as there was an opportunity, she was like, nope, I'm going this way. And that's what I love about, like, look, Kipo is a little OP, right? Like, she's a little overpowered.
Yeah.
Like, she's, super athletic, but also super smart and, like, really friendly and super optimistic and, like, a natural-born leader almost. And it's like, wait a minute. You got to have a hole somewhere. There's got to be a hole in there.
Yeah. Like, I need at least one giant flaw to buy into you as a character. So we see just a glimmer of one here. If I was going to fault the show for anything so far, I would have faulted them for creating a quote, perfect main character.
Right. It was, she's a little too perfect, right? Like, it would have been one of those moments. But no, like, she definitely doesn't listen. Like, we see this in other episodes also. It's just so happened that in previous episodes, this definitely worked towards her advantage, right? Like, she didn't listen to her friends and she made friends. Like, she made even more friends when her friends were like, no, they'll kill you and eat you. And she just went off and did her own thing. And like here, there's no, well, there is a hero coming to save you. But it's not the one you think. But, like, Kipo's plans have just panned out up until this point. And she did the thing she has done, which is to not listen to the people around her and to just kind of go off on her own and do her own thing and hope it works out. And this time, it super didn't work out.
That's a really good point.
She sets Jamack free. She comes back and they're like, dessert is missing. Or gone, or whatever it is they say. I don't know. Dessert's squared away. And, and Wolf, who's also like personally incapable of judging how loud she is when she's angry. She's like, you let him escape, and then it's like pin drop. The wolves are growling. They're coming in for the kill. All of you are just circled up and they're just like, we're going to hunt you. And Wolf does what she does best when she's under pressure is she just like gets up and is like, catch me if you can, suckers, and runs out the door.
I love this moment for Wolf. She's just such a hero.
Yes.
She's just such a hero.
But like, she's a hero. Like, I love how the entire dinner I was getting such like triggered vibes off her. Like she was uncomfortable. She had like wolves up in her face. She was not here for any of it. And I really like, she was also super quiet, but that's just Wolf. But like, she was very tense the entire time they were sitting there. And like, here is like finally something I actually know how to do, which is run away from wolves. Come on, come get me.
which is convince the wolves, right? That I am the real hunt. I'm the isolated prey. And I feel like I love how the animators had her entire body language change when she steps up on that table. Because you're right, Wolf is usually a quiet character, but I think that at the dinner table with the wolves, this was more than just our usual quiet wolf. It was that she was tense. I agree with you. And it was that she isn't playing the alpha. Distinctly not. In no plan is she allowed to be the alpha. So she had to kind of take a step back. And then here she steps up and saves everyone's butts because...
Which is so funny because I'm like, it's such alpha energy though.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. That's what I mean. Like, she was holding herself back the whole time. Because you know what? She is the alpha in this group. She is.
I know. When
it comes to strength.
Yes. Like, she's the alpha to a point, right? Like, she's the alpha to a, like, we have to survive by the bare minimum of life on this planet point.
Yeah. Yes, exactly. But she's an alpha in the eyes of wolves, right?
Exactly.
Because she was raised by wolves. And when you're raised, she's just kind of internalized that. The alpha is the strongest one. The alpha is the one who's going to help the team survive.
Maybe we should, and that is Wolf. I'm going to take a slight sidebar here to talk about the fact that this show definitely uses like alpha in the strictest of wolf sense, which we know is like no longer a thing. And like wolves don't actually have alphas. And like the pack hierarchy is not what we think it is. Having said that, though, these are mute wolves, so I accepted it.
Right. They're mute wolves, and they've decided that knowledge is their prey. Exactly. We're just we have to, what is the phrase I'm looking for? Something about disbelief and lifting it up.
Suspend.
Yes.
I mean, yes, we could also lift up our disbelief.
Do you like how my brain was like, I know exactly what I'm trying to say, but I don't have any of the words?
I like that instead of suspend, it was lifted up as if removing gravity from the situation.
Well, I knew that I wanted something like, like this.
But yes, suspending disbelief. I definitely get that from the show in general, right? Like there's a lot of things that you wouldn't see normal animals doing. Like talking, and I think there's a lot of interesting commentary to be made on how they're all speaking English and how they're all somewhat like humans and like how humans can influence a society. And like if you took, say, maybe a toxically masculine trope of like an alpha and you threw it at a bunch of animals, maybe wolves would pick it up and be like, hey, you know what? But like the reason that alpha works here is because we have an expert, because Wolf is an expert at wolves because she was raised by wolves and she understands how they work. So these wolves in this world work with an alpha, and that's it. That's our digression. I'm going to leave it alone.
I don't think that's a digression. I think it's right on point because, as we continue through these episodes, I think that the idea that humans have influenced this world is kind of an interesting one that I hope the show gets into a little bit more. Because yes, like clearly these wolves took on some kind of trope that they'd seen somewhere. And the mod frogs did the same thing. Like, where did they get the mob get up?
Right?
Right? Like somehow.
Why are they all wearing suits? Why are they all talking like Sinatra? You know,
Exactly. Exactly. Like that gangster, is that the word I'm looking for?
Yeah. I mean, gangster fits.
It's okay, gangster. But you know what I'm saying. They have that vibe. They have that vibe going. But then I think in the next episode, so there we go, kind of a segue. In the next episode,
oh wait, there's a very important thing we have to touch on in this one. I'll put a pin on it, but yes, finish your.
But in the next episode, we see that graffiti that's put up. That's basically like human hate graffiti, right? Mm-hmm. And we see it up in a couple of different places. I don't really know what that's about yet. I assume the show is going to explain it to me at some point. But it's got to have something to do with the fact that humans destroyed the entire planet. And it's probably their fault, all of this happens. And now the animals are just like taking on the parts of their oppressors that it's interesting, I guess is all I'm saying.
No. It's 100% an interesting point. And I feel like, I mean, we could do our own podcast on that entire thing, but it's been 25 minutes and we really shouldn't. So what I will say is we definitely see some humans who are not jiving with the way everything has crumbled. Right?
Yeah.
We'll see more of that later. But like, who's to say that the mutes didn't learn English and, you know, all a host of other things? Because they're very obviously influenced by, well, not just American actually, because we'll get to Scarlemagne in a minute. They're very influenced by human eras. Mm-hmm. We'll just leave it at that. But the end of this episode, which during the hunt is the first time we get one of Kipo's interesting superpowers. A little surprise.
Yes.
Kipo can see in the dark.
Which I love, and I'm so happy to see, and I feel like I a tiny bit called when we were watching the first few episodes, and I was like, there's something up with her eyes. There's something going on there. And I think that I had said, listen, clearly I haven't listened to our own podcast in a little while, but I think that I said something about how I was like, well, her skin and her eyes are different because she grew up underground and maybe she's adapted to a world where she's not exposed to a lot of sunlight. So when I saw that here, I was like, aha! Now, skipping ahead, very clearly, this isn't just your run-of-the-mill adaptation. There's something else going on here.
There is something else going on here, but it was a very, 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 very good guess. And it did take a lot for me to not ruin it.
I'm glad you did it. I'm very proud of you, Joy.
No, yeah. I was like, oh yeah, does it? Interesting. Like tried to keep my face very neutral.
What a great fight scene.
Such a good fight scene. And like, here is where we get all of our pack tactics.
Yes.
All of a sudden, everything's working. Everything Wolf put them through before. All of a sudden, they're actually able to do it. And I loved it. I loved the choreo of it. I actually wrote, and somehow they managed to beat the wolves, ... by the power of friendship.
Well, I love that, yes, it's the power of friendship. And Jamack called it. He said it earlier and made fun of her for it. He's like, oh, I didn't realize you had the power of friendship. And it's like, yeah, dude, she does.
She does. She does have the power of friendship. And yeah, no, I love the fight scene. They get away. Obviously, they sort of reconvene. The wolves are definitely taken out by like all of them, which is hilarious. Like the Scrappy-Doo bunch of mutes and humans just manages to take out like the entire pack of wolves.
Benson just taps into his hangry rage.
Yes, he does.
And Mondu can also see in the dark.
Yes, Mondu can also see in the dark. And Mondu catches that Kipo has the ability to see in the dark, and when her eyes change back to regular
Mm-hmm.
eyes, which I also really love. I love Mondu, just always
Mondu's so
and
smart.
forever. Mondu
See,
is like the best.
Mondu is the flaw in Wolf's rule for herself in terms of her eating speaking animals. Because listen,
Right.
I agree that is a fine line in the sand. If I lived in this world, I would not eat things that could hold a conversation. But Mondu is very clearly just as intelligent as everyone on this team.
I know.
She just happens not to be able to communicate verbally.
She definitely tries to let people know when she has something to quote unquote say, but boy,
Oh boy. Poor Mondu.
boy.
So frustrating. Okay,
I know.
they see a message on the billboard. It's 3.212. What does the message mean? We don't know. End of episode 5.
End of episode 5. And now Ratland. Oh man, the cold open for this is also one of my favorites because we are introduced to Scarlemagne and his court and his his fashion sense. So we see that Scarlemagne is I believe a mandrill monkey and baboon.
Oh, I thought he was a thought he was a baboon. Only because of I saw the facial coloring and thought baboon. I think so.
Just keep saying primate, and I'm like, you guys are killing me. But is it a baboon? It doesn't matter. I mean, it matters, but it doesn't matter here.
We'll figure it out later. The point is, Scarlemagne is there, playing a piano and directing this wild. It's actually not a wild dance. I don't mean that in the sense that it's not choreographed. It's perfectly choreographed. It's just that he keeps on increasing the tempo faster and faster and faster in order to make himself sweat, because apparently the way that he has been controlling other monkeys, apes, and lemurs is with his pheromones, which he collects in a perfume bottle. And I guess that's what the little poof on the collar was from the Megamute in the other episode.
It certainly was. Yes, he can control primates with his pheromones. Yeah, super gross. Not a huge fan of that little plot point, but it comes into play, let's say.
Yes.
But yeah, no, it's we get, also I freaking love his 2-headed flamingo so much. I love him so much.
His whole aesthetic and the fact that I guess, hey, listen, I haven't seen this show before, right? So maybe this is going to complicate itself a little bit more than the show has led us to believe so far. But thus far, his plan is to collect humans so that he can teach them different dances and make them part of his court. That's what's happening so far. You know, I honestly, in my brain, as I realized that Kipo was able to see in the dark, and then I started wondering whether she has other really interesting adaptations, I thought maybe Scarlemagne is collecting burrow humans because they have interesting adaptations that he can use to his advantage and, create an army of burrow humans. TBD, I guess. That hasn't happened yet. All we have so far
fill
is
in the blanks
dancing.
On that. We'll fill the blanks. No. Well, we have a little bit more than dancing, and we should get back to the plot. More. But, he does have a giant monkey who, destroys burrows. I'm just saying. He's got a giant monkey. It's one of those things that I think is meant to be unnerving in a way that you don't fully understand right off the bat. Right? We'll see, and I don't want to give too much away, but Scarlemagne is one of my favorite characters in the entire show. He has a really interesting take on who he is and who others have assumed he is and who others have wanted him to be, and he has some really interesting growth to do, but this Scarlemagne is not about any growth. This Scarlemagne is about parties and about having fun and about doing whatever he damn well pleases.
Parties, having fun, and orchestrating that fun. I think he loves being the one in power and the one in control.
Oh, 100%. He is happy to have these humans dance on command, which he does. over and over again. It is unnerving, to say the least, because I love that first shot. We have to talk about the rest of it, but I love that first shot of like, you finally get to see the humans who have been dancing, and they're all in like, in these fine clothes and these masks and these wigs. And then you like pan slowly and they've stopped dancing, but they're heaving and out of breath, and they haven't dropped their arms, and they're like still in perfect stance. And it's like, oh, they don't have a choice.
Yeah.
They must dance. And I found that to be super creepy.
Yeah. Super creepy.
I think this show really straddles the line between like, is it too creepy? I mean, we'll get to Mulholland, but like, is it too weird, or is it like just weird enough that I'm like, oh, okay, it's kind of creeping me out, but like I'm kind of okay with it. It's in bright colors.
I'm gonna go with just weird enough. I think I'm gonna go with just weird enough. But you're right. The bright colors and the music, does that make it more or less creepy? I don't know.
It's hard to say. But so yes, so this is our cold open. We get back to also. Real quick while we're on Scarlemagne, Jamack had like this little throwaway line of like, we were all running around not knowing what we were doing, faction against faction, clan against clan, pack against pack, and then Scarlemagne showed up. Yeah. And so I think it's this interesting, like Scarlemagne is meant to be this revolutionary leader. And I think it's either you're with Scarlemagne or you're not with Scarlemagne. So like that's sort of where,
like I think it to me at least. And again, I haven't seen the show yet. He strikes me less as a revolutionary leader and more as like a mob boss. I keep on going back to that. But it's just like everyone's following what he says, not because they respect him or because they agree with whoever was in power that he overturned. They're following him because they're scared of him, I think, thus far. I mean, who knows? Unless he actually did overthrow the humans. And all of the animals are like, there's a lot of,
there is a lot of blanks to be filled in. But like, I think it's just interesting to see where that goes and who has different opinions of him, right? Because the wolves are somewhat like kowtowing to him too, because the wolves get dropped off at his little court, and he's just like, what you doing here? And they were like, well, our telescope kind of broke because this burrow girl kind of broke it. And he's like, well, now what do I do? How do I find my humans? And he sends out his fleet of humans on his two-headed flamingos, who I adore so much. I love those giant two-headad flamingos.
And then the way the rest of the episode is structured is that it's revealed that it's Kipo's birthday. 3.232 is the length of a parsec, but 3.26 at 2 a.m. is also Kipo's birthday, and 3.26 is the day it is. She's turning 13, and classic Benson convinces the crew that a birthday must be celebrated. It does not matter whether you have a clue or a mystery that you need to solve or how badly you want to go find your dad. We're going to hit pause and we're going to celebrate. And I love that this was totally the wheels in his head were turning, and it was no accident that he and Kipo go off by themselves. And he's like, well, I'm taking Kipo. We have to get each other presents. Wolf, you go with Dave and Mandu. I'm taking Kipo. See y'all later. And the party splits.
And the party splits.
And then the rest of the episode kind of bops between the two parties.
Right. And so while Wolf is trying to find a present for Kipo, trying genuinely to find a present for Kipo, which I thought was really sweet.
Very sweet.
She actually comes across the actual clue that they've been waiting to figure out, which is, and I'll just get the plot stuff out of the way, but like it's a store parts, etc., which kind of looks like parsec, and they find a clue in there from Kipo's dad with the sign of Aries, which is her sign, which again, of course, she's an Aries, because of course she's an Aries. And like, there's a letter inside from her father and a map as to where their second location of the burrow could be. And then old Dave, as he's prone to do, states the obvious of like, perfect. Now she can go find her family and forget about all of us forever. And poor Wolf has such an identity crisis of like, she's going to leave me so far behind. I don't know if she makes the decision right then. I feel like she makes it pretty immediately to not give Kipo the letter.
Yeah, I agree. I think that she was reasonably sure she wouldn't give it to Kipo. And then later, when they actually exchange gifts, we see this brief moment where she's like, but should I? Nah.
Yep. And then she doesn't do it.
She doesn't. So that's that side of the story of the episode. Now,
but most of it happens.
Side,
most of the plot happens with Benso and Kipo. In Ratland, I love Ratland. Okay, so here's a couple things about Ratland. This is a DreamWorks production. There is no way they are not poking fun at Disney. Zero. The options for that are zero. You shouldn't place your bets on this because you will lose. It is zero. There's a couple ways you can tell. The not jungle cruise that they go on, which is the bad jokes on like the lazy river. The annual season pass holders who I absolutely adored, complete with small child. Respect the rules of the park. The creating a safe space. Yes. A safe shared environment where mutes and humans alike can just enjoy the park. And it's funny because it is DreamWorks. And so I'm just like, I'm waiting for the terror to happen, right? Like something's going to happen at Disney World. Something's got to happen. Something's got to happen to Ratland. But, but instead what we get is like a Scarlemagne's mini attack and they have to run away. But I loved that. Okay, so this is where the show does one of the things that I really enjoyed, because when Benson was introduced, inevitably in a kid show, there's kid, preteen, whatever, doesn't matter. In a animated show that is for the 9 to 12-year-olds approximately, you tend to expect a romance between the lead and whatever dude, especially if it's a female lead, and whatever dude shows up.
Yeah, like all it takes is a sideways glance usually. And you're like, well, that's it. That's the OTP, I guess.
There it is. Now, I was so glad because this whole thing does feel like a date. Benson was so happy to take her with it, and it was just the two of them. And like they go on this cruise, which is like, and she starts kind of staring at him a little longingly, and then he splashes her with water, which I thought was brilliant.
He interrupts the moment. Yeah.
He interrupts the moment completely because we'll see why. Because like they both end up on the top of this Ferris wheel, and Kipo is having these very strong, like, I need to tell you I like you emotions. And she does. She's like, I think I like you. I don't know if it's because I just turned 13. I don't know what's going on with me, but I think I like you. And he, like, the music stops. And he's like, oh. And she immediately comes up with these excuses of like, oh, you don't like me like that. That's fine. And he's like, no. I like you a lot. It's, but just not that way. Like you don't, you
just like me as a friend,
You just like me as a friend.
And
because I'm gay. And like, he just says it. And like, yes, it's awkward, but like, he basically just says it. And she's like, oh, I'm so sorry. I misunderstood those signals, but I'm just really glad you're my friend. And like, and then that's it. And then that's it.
And then they hug. Because they're friends. And then Scarlemagne's giant flamingo interrupts their moment.
I know.
But I love this. I love that it was everything that he was doing was genuinely out of the friendship kind of love and the friendship kind of caring, because she's right? In quote, misreading his signals. He did want to get her alone. He did bring her to a really special place away from everyone else, And usually when those things happen, especially in a kid's show, it's like, ding, 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 I'm picking up what you're putting down.
Yeah.
They were on a Ferris wheel. It was sunset. Like all of that was there. But the reason that he set this entire thing in motion is that he wanted to show her away from Wolf so that Wolf wouldn't be able to just cast her usual kind of perspective on the situation. He wanted to show her that not everything on the surface is bad and that it doesn't have to be a constant nightmare. There are actually places that are full of kindness and love and places, and like there is room for celebration. And that was his gift to her. And I was like, ah.
I know, it was so good. And like,
It was so
I love
sweet.
I love that he said, like, I wanted you to have hope for your people.
Exactly.
And like, it's such a genuine, it's like Benson is such a genuine dude. And like 2 episodes, he was talking about how he should leave. Like, but oh no, but you're so good for
well,
the
they didn't know each other yet.
They didn't know each other yet. No, yeah, I love this moment because it was such a really good way to sort of put representation in there and not make it a big deal, and just literally make it this is who you are and this is who I am, and that's fine.
Yep,
and that's it. And then the goons attack, and then we get the second special thing about Kipo, which is one of her arms gets furry
with it. It's like a pink cheetah print. Which is awesome.
It is. It's like circles inside squares like arranged
like
in a non, like, yes, like a cheetah print, but like in an asymmetrical. You know what I mean? Like the pattern looks really different. I love her fuzzy arms because also this makes her super agile and really strong. And she's able to just like swing them to safety.
And she saves Benson's life. And now Benson is the only one that she has is the only one who knows that she has this second secret power.
Right. And she's trying to figure it out, which honestly, the way Wolf deals with mutes, probably not a bad idea. Like the one time that Kipo is showing caution, maybe this is her growth. Maybe this is her showing growth.
That spiky sleeve to cover up her possibly furry arm is growth. I love that spiky sleeve. Love that spiky sleeve so much.
The spiky sleeve's so great. Yeah, so what Wolf ends up giving her is this spiky sleeve, which is hilarious. And Kipo found, we skipped over it, but Kipo found almost immediately the present for Wolf, and it's a barrette for her hair. To keep her hair out of her eyes when she fights.
Because it's purple and it has flowers on it. But the reason, but it's there to keep Wolf's hair out of her face when she fights. And listen, I'm just going to blast into the next episode because we've just got to do it. You can tell that Wolf loves the present from her face and the way that she reacts to it, but also because in her dream, she's still wearing the barrette.
I know.
I'm like, no. She likes it.
Oh my God.
I'm such a sucker for that sort of thing.
Yes.
Okay.
No, 100%.
How do we talk about Mulholland in
how do we talk about
a
Mulholland?
reasonable amount of time?
So I think I can sum it up very quickly. This is sort of Kipo's Inception episode, right? A little bit. It's not just that. It's a little Matrix. It's not just that though. Every episode of a show that I like tends to have an episode where you get to know what the characters are really thinking. And it usually,
I see.
because of the nature of the shows that I tend to watch, it tends to be something a little on the paranormal side, right? So like in, I think in the X-Files, I joke about my favorite episode being the one where you finally hear the X-File told from Mulder and Scully's point of view. So you finally get to hear what they think about each other. And it's hilarious. You get some of I know in Buffy, there's of course the musical episode, but there was before that, there was Earshot where she could hear people's thoughts, and there's always that episode where you get more of what's actually happening in people's heads.
Insight.
And this, and this is that episode for Kipo. Basically, they come across Tad Mulholland, who is a community of tardigrades, and I kind of adore him, even though he's so weirdly menacing. Oh yeah. He's so creepy, and he exists in water, And he is just there to control people's minds and, slowly devour them from the inside out. And the gang has drank his water, so now they are his to consume. And what he does is he gives you a very pleasant dream as you slowly die.
And that's why it reminded me of The Matrix, right? Because he's put them into happy realities that ideally they will never think to question. Because the instant you question your reality, it crumbles around you, which we see later in this episode. But as he's doing that, they're not human batteries, but that's what made me think of The Matrix, because he's absorbing the energy from them, by which you are correct. It's
a very good analogy. It's 100%. It's 100% what he's doing. He's just not a machine, but like that's 100% what he's doing. Because again, as you mentioned, as soon as you question your reality, you break from it. And I find it very interesting that Wolf is the first person to do that.
Because of her big feelings. Her big feelings disrupt his whole plan.
Giant ram of feelings. A giant talking ram of feelings. So we'll go through the dreams super fast. Benson and Dave's is my favorite, and it's essentially clubbing. They just be clubbing.
It's a party.
It's a party.
First of all, they share their dream, because of course they would share their dream.
Exactly. It's so perfect.
You're right.
They have a light up floor. Benson has a bunch of dudes,
it's just
yelling his name.
An everlasting dance party.
It's so much dance party. It's so much them. It was very them, and I enjoyed every minute of it. And even as they broke out of the dream, they were like, "Can we go back?" Because that was actually kind of cool. Mondu's is my second favorite.
Oh yeah,
which is
100%.
Just fields and fields and fields and fields of those weird Cheeto puffs she likes to eat. It's so good.
But just like giant size and cactus shaped. So Mondu's dream is just Mondu like glomping through giant cacti not Cheetos.
Yes.
And just like
not
munch,
Cheeto.
munch. And the music, I know I keep on saying this. I could basically say this about every single piece of music in this entire show, but the music as Mondu is munching through that forest of chips is spectacular.
Yes. So good. It's so good. The music in the show is top notch.
Mondu doesn't talk, right? And in Mondu's dream, Mondu also doesn't talk. So the whole aesthetic of the dream is reliant on the music that is playing as Mondu eats her way through the forest.
Yes. No, 100%. 100%. And which leads us to the two main characters of this episode, which is Kipo's dream and Wolf's dream. Let's touch on Wolf's dream, because that one's kind of easier, I think, to unpack than Kipo's dream. Wolf basically has this dream where it's her and Kipo, and they are two strong hunters who
really muscly versions of themselves.
Oh man, they've got those sick gains.
Yeah.
They've got huge necks. They feel very bro-y, and like they talk very bro-y to each other, and it's so funny. And they hunt mega bunnies, and they have hunted the last mega bunny, and now they're like, maybe we should switch up careers. What else do you want to hunt? It's
and now
so
the music in this entire dream is different from the music in the rest of the show, because the music in the rest of the show is, you're right, I think mostly hip hop with a little bit of a little mix of other things. Mm-hmm. But the music playing throughout Wolf's dream is anime music.
Yes. I'm not sure if it's K-pop.
It feels like anime music, like music that would play during an anime. And it's when they're running and fighting and hunting, it's that fast-paced, something exciting is happening, anime music. But my favorite moment is the moment in the dream where Wolf's big feelings start to come through. And the first time her feelings start to come through, she sees this giant cloud formation that's shaped like the Aries symbol, right? Which is where the ram comes from later. And as she's slowing down to look up at the clouds, the music shifts from exciting anime music to pensive anime music. Almost like the difference between the intro credits and the outro credits of an anime episode.
Yes. No, the balance here is so good. And it's so lovely to see. But yeah, so she she gets this giant ram of feelings, which talks to her and is just like, why didn't you give that map to Kipo? And it starts to really break down her guilt. And she turns to Kipo and she's like, I'm so sorry. I should have given this to you originally. We have to find your dad. This is how we find your dad. I'm so sorry. Here's the note. And what clicks for her that this isn't Kipo is the way Kipo reacts to this note, which is to tear it up and is just, why would I want to stay in the past, man? Let's go eat this giant ram, which also calls back to your thing about like Wolf doesn't eat animals that talk. Therefore, this is how you know this isn't Kipo, because Kipo knows that.
I love that she literally says, you're not my Kipo.
Yep.
You're not
I love
my
it too.
Kipo.
I love it too. Now,
And
Kipo's
so she
dream.
breaks out of her dream.
She does break out of her dream, but Kipo's dream is way more intense. And Wolf is systematically trying to break everyone else out, right? But Kipo's is the hardest to break because Kipo is dreaming that she's back in her burrow, back with her father, and that her mother shows up, and that it was just a huge misunderstanding that like her mother got taken away by a giant bunny and they thought she was like eaten or killed or something. And then she's there. And then Kipo has that, like, her fur shows up, and, you know, it's that beautiful adolescent moment of like, don't come in, I'm not ready, you know, and like, you don't understand what's happening, you know, and the father tries to very awkwardly talk to her about being a furry potato.
Yeah, everyone's body goes through changes at this age, you know, like when you leave a potato in the sun for too long.
And it grows fur. I'm a furry potato.
And then mom is like, get out of the way. I got this.
I got this. And it's wonderful because it's like, oh, thank God you were here, right? And Kipo keeps saying, but like, Dad told me you were sick when I was a baby. But, you know, like, well, that's not true. I was going to tell you something else. And like, even that sort of doesn't seem to sit very well with Kipo. You get a sense of like, but that doesn't make any sense. Why wouldn't you tell me that like she was taken away by a giant bunny, you know, like, or a mega boot or whatever.
Yeah.
And as her mother is like talking to her, there's this like, it's really interesting what Mulholland does, because I think Mulholland like uses what Kipo already has and tries to fill in the blanks, but he doesn't fill them in completely, almost like a grifter would, like waiting for the mark to fill them in for him. And and it's like this very interesting, like Mulholland probably already like realizes, oh, she's a mute. Well, maybe she doesn't. Maybe she doesn't know she's mute. That's interesting.
Yeah.
Right? Like,
let's play with that. Or like she very clearly misses her mom. Let's give her everything a preteen whose mom went missing heart desires, right?
Exactly.
Like mom's going to bring her to the special place where mom went when she was pregnant with her. And
And this very specific like connection that she would need to her mother, because she's missing this piece of understanding what is happening to her. And so to have an insert of her mom be like, well, because I'm part mute, dear, and like instantly latch on to that, because it's like, well, it's something that's happening to me. And if my mom said it happened to her, then I have this link. And like, it's such a complicated psychological dream. And like even Mulholland is like, this is some of my finest work, you know, like, and and she would have.
I think it's so tough because her mom is basically talking to her in platitudes, you know, like, oh, I'm just like you. You're not alone. I think she says 8 different versions of "you're not alone" and 5 different versions of your dad and I love you. Right. That's all she's saying. She's not actually saying much more than that, which is, to your point, how we can tell that she's fake. But Kipo is just so starved for that. She's just so starved for that love from her mom, and she misses her dad so much that she isn't able to see past the fact that her mom isn't actually saying anything meaningful.
Yeah, and it's all surface. It's all surface level. And I think if Wolf hadn't broken, I think if Wolf hadn't broken the spell, she would have probably stayed in there, you know, forever. And, 100%. You know, probably been one of the ones that Mulholland totally drained of life.
She absolutely would have been digested.
Yeah.
100%. And it's interesting. I think that this was what I was alluding to at the top of the episode, because as we're discussing it now, it sounds like this is actually fairly heavy, trauma-filled kind of content. But the show does not treat it that way. You know, like, I think that if the writers of Steven Universe had written this episode, it would have played very differently.
It would have been very different, yeah.
And we're not even talking like Leaf on the Wind's levels of sadness, you know?
Right.
It's just
I love that there are some very specific people that we will all know what you meant when you say that on this podcast. Yeah, no, it's a very specific kind of trauma that they're dealing with. And I think they deal with it in interesting ways because, and this brings us to the end of the episode where Wolf finally reveals this letter and like Kipo actually gets angry. Like, I think this is the first time we really see Kipo get genuinely angry at one of her friends. And, you know, she has every right to be angry, right?
Yeah.
Of like, you kept this from me, this very specific thing. You know, I've been looking for my dad. Like, I made us walk around in circles and you have the clue sitting in your pocket. And Wolf has this really genuine moment of honesty where she becomes vulnerable and, you know, basically tells her exactly why she kept it from her. Like, I thought you were going to leave me. I thought you were going to go back to your burrow and then we would never know each other and you would leave all of us alone and that would be it. And at her core, Wolf doesn't want to be alone. And Kipo has somewhere to go and Wolf doesn't have that. I think it's this really interesting moment because Kipo is still angry and she hugs Wolf anyway.
Yes. A really big hug because she knows that this was a tough moment for Wolf, right? She's crying. Yeah. The animators had her literally exposed because she had been in the water earlier and her wolf uniform got wet. It's drying in front of the fire. So when Wolf finally unburdens herself, she doesn't have her hood to hide behind. And all you see are, you know, her hair in all of its glory and her giant with the clip. Don't forget the clip. And those giant wet eyes.
Yeah. And I really like that they let their characters be vulnerable here because it is like they skirt around this idea of this very tough post-apocalyptic world, right? Like it could be very dire. It could be very scary. And they color it and they paint it in these very bright colors. And there's a way that they deal with trauma that I don't think any other show really does. And I think they bring up real issues in a very interesting way. And they're super relatable. Like, I don't think there's anything wrong with that. Like, yes, the grim. No. Look, I love me a grimdark. Like, Steven Universe is like top 3 TV show of all time. Love me some trauma. But like, there is a way of, you know, I almost feel like Kipo is like this interesting branch of evolution of where like Steven Universe would deal with trauma. This is very specific. Like, I don't know. It's just like, it's another aspect that it doesn't shy away from it and it doesn't color code it. Like, yes, in the framework of the show, we do get very quick solutions, right? Like we definitely get the solution in 25 minutes. Or, you know, these encounters last 25 minutes, but then we have the characters come back. We keep seeing Jamack. We keep seeing other characters and like they grow and change with the characters on this show. And I just think the pace is really interesting. I don't know. I like it.
I do too so far. I don't have a good way of describing the way the show manages the characters' issues and trauma because I don't think I've seen enough of the show yet. Fair. But I will certainly unpack that with you as we learn more about everyone on this show.
Yes. No, I very much look forward to what we learn about ourselves and the show as it progresses. I mean, look, we're kind of doing a speed run. We're kind of doing a speed run of the show. It's a little unfair. We should really be doing like an episode per episode because so much happens. But no,
this is the way to do it.
Perfect.
Like, if anyone is confused because we're skipping over little things or we're speed running through, just watch it. Highly recommend. 10 out of 10. Watch this show. The episodes are short. They're not super long, not a heavy commitment. And
they're right there on Netflix.
Instead of just hearing me say the music is really good, then you could actually hear the music. You know, it's like when you're watching a food show and the people on the food show are like, this smells amazing. And you at home are like, how is that helpful? That doesn't, what? It's not useful information to me.
I don't have smell-o-vision. I can't help you. I don't know what's going on. I think we need to hit one more things before we go to overtime.
I don't have a meaningful one more thing.
Mine's not terribly meaningful. Mine's not meaningful either. You can do yours first.
Okay. My one more thing that we didn't get to mention is the water fountain. The water fountain, and the fact that Benson and Wolf did not know what a water fountain was. Benson just assumed those were little satellite dishes because, yeah, sure, they're kind of satellite shaped. And so when Kipo actually presses on the button and the water fountain works, they're like, what? And they're mind blown. So I like that because it's fun. And I think it's another clue as to how long it has been since the world fell apart. Like, it has been so long that neither Benson nor, and at least I acknowledge that they're young, so maybe this isn't saying a lot, but Benson and Wolf have no idea how so much of what the humans have left behind actually works.
No, exactly. It's exactly that. It's like, you know, it's the vending machine problem, right? Yeah. It's like if you don't see someone use a vending machine, you may not actually know how to use it. But if you punch the glass, you can get everything out of there, right?
Exactly. Like, I don't think that they know that people used to put money in vending machines and then the food would come out. They just bash the front in. Isn't that what you do? That's
obviously what you do. I do enjoy that he thought they were just tiny satellites.
Tiny satellites.
Tiny Satellites is my favorite, like, David Bowie album. Or whatever. No, so I have two really quick one more things. I think I mentioned it last episode, but I couldn't remember the name of the song. We had it here with Wolf's Runaway.
Yeah.
She runs away and the song picks up. It's called Girl Like, Grrr. No, 3 R's. Grrrl like. Mm-hmm. The artist is Dope St. Jude. And it is an amazing song. If you haven't checked out all of the soundtrack of Kipo and the Age of the Wonderbeasts, I highly recommend just checking out that song because it is awesome. And it's Wolf's theme in my head. Like, every time I hear it, I think about Wolf. And my other thing is that Kipo taught me a new word, which was, oh God, and I'm not even going to be able to say it, unvincentillion, which actually is a number to the 67th power. That is the actual word for what it is to be a 67th power. Unvincentillions. Kipo said it. I could learn how to say it, but meanwhile, I will just like stare at the spelling because it looks amazing. I very much look forward to showing you. We will be finishing season 1 in the next episode. We will be watching the last three episodes of season 1.
Can't wait. So excited.
Yeah. And
everyone should watch this show along with us because it's awesome. And
yes,
highly recommend 10 out of 10.
And you could watch those 3 episodes for an hour and then listen to us for slightly over an hour.
In the meantime, though, we would love to hear from you. Please check us out at Binge O'Clock Pod on Twitter and Facebook, where you can answer the question, what is your favorite anime intro? You can also email us at bingeoclockpod@gmail.com. And don't forget, we have a Patreon. Find us at patreon.com/BlockPod.
That's right. And tell your friends, tell your family, tell your loved ones, tell the live lobsters in your life about Binge O'Clock, and we will see you next time.
I really sat down to watch these 3 episodes thinking that I'd be done in 40 minutes. Why'd I do that? I don't know.
Wow, Danielle, the levels of not math. You can't be not math this much. Danielle does not do math. Check that off on your bingo card. Do I have any squares on the bingo card? Are my squares like 100% or 1,000%?
Yeah.
Joy mentions I think some of your...
Joy mentions a percent. I mean, I know this is cheating, but Joy mentions a show that Danielle hasn't seen.
Well, no, that's your freebie. Your freebie is Danielle hasn't seen it. That's your That's your center
it goes on both of our bingo cards because we're the two sides of the equation.
No, that's true.